Ritson versus John Scott the Quaker by Charles Lamb. I have in my possession Scott's critical essays on some of the poems of several English poets, a handsome octavo bought at the sale of Ritson's books, and enriched or deformed, as some would think it, with misannotations in the handwriting of that redoubted censor. I shall transcribe a few which seem most characteristic of both the writers, Scott feeble but amiable, Ritson coarse, caustic, clever, and I am to suppose not amiable, but they have proved some amusement to me, and I hope will produce some to the reader this rainy season, which really damps a gentleman's wings for any original flight, and obliges him to ransack his shelves and miscellaneous reading, to furnish an occasional or makeshift paper. If the sky clears up, and the sun dances this Easter, as they say he is wont to do, the town may be troubled with something more in his own way the ensuing month from its poor servant to command. Elias Scott. There is a very bold transposition in this passage. A superficial reader, not attending to the sense of the epithet ever, might be ready to suppose that the intervals intended were those between the falling of the waters, instead of those between the falling of the towers. pg 258. Ritson. A beauty, as in Thomson's Winter. A superficial person, Mr. Scott for instance, would be apt to connect the last clause in this period with the line foregoing. Bends to the coast of Cathay with news, and see, but has a reader nothing to do but to sit passive, while the connection is to glide into his ears like oil. Scott. The last two lines have more music than Denham's can possibly boast. Ritson. May I have leave to conjecture that in the very last line of all the word "the" has erroneously crept in. I am persuaded that the poet wrote his. To my mind, at least, this reading in a surprising degree heightens the idea of the extreme clearness and transparency of the stream, where a man might see more than his face, as it were, in it. Scott. The second of these little pieces, called Hassan, or the Camel Driver, is of superior character. This poem contradicts history in one principal instance. The merchants of the East travel in numerous caravans, but Hassan is introduced pg 259 travelling alone in the Desert. But this circumstance detracts little from our author's merit. Adherence to historical fact is seldom required in poetry. Ritson. It is always where the poet unnecessarily transports you to the ends of the world. If he must plague you with exotic scenery, you have a right to exact strict local imagery and costume. Why must I learn Arabic, to read nothing after all but gaze fables in another language? Scott. Abra is introduced in a grove, wreathing a flowery chaplet for her hair. Shakespeare himself could not have devised a more natural and pleasing incident than that of the monarch's attention being attracted by her song. Ritson. Cht. Scott. From the pen of Cowley, such an observation as Secander's, that his feet were no longer friendly to his life, might have been expected, but Collins rarely committed such violations of simplicity. Ritson. Pen of Cowley, impudent goosequill, how darest thou guess what Cowley would have written?